Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the training, learning, and development community. Thanks for joining us. It's afternoon here on my side of the West Coast. And Jack, I don't know what side. You're on the East Coast, aren't you?
Well, no, I'm in the middle. I didn't know there were two sides to the West Coast, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm on the other side of the West Coast. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm landlocked.
You're landlocked. I guess the reason I mention it is because I'm this is usually we don't do the member broadcasts in the afternoon, but I'm just seeing kind of a trend to do some of these later. Like for instance, tomorrow I actually have one even later than this one at 4 p.m. But Deanne Bowles is coming in from Sydney, Australia. So it's interesting to have these coming in later in the afternoon. I still enjoy them though. It's a little different for me. Yeah. So Jack, member showcase, we're going to be talking. I have 10 questions for you. We've got about 30 minutes. What these broadcasts are, they're focused on trying to get to know people in the training, learning, and development community better. I have a page that is set up that shows all of these different people that are in the community that folks can check out, and they do get traffic. People can watch to see like, who are all of these other L&D professionals that are out there. And I felt like building a community, this is one of the best things that I could do, is just kind of document and profile folks. Because if there's one thing that I love about this space, it is the people. And you're one of those people that I love talking to, Jack.
I always have enjoyed talking to you. And community is a big deal. It really is. It makes us feel part of something that gives us a sense of being.
Right. Yeah. And the thing that I like about the face-to-face stuff is that, or getting on screen with actual human beings, is that there's something that you talk about a lot that we are better able to establish in this kind of a format, which is trust. And we're going to be talking about that. I have some questions specifically related to that in my group of questions for you here. So let's just start out with this first one. You've been in learning and development, in sort of the training space, and even in marketing for a really, really long time, like over 20 years, right?
More like 40.
More like 40. What started you on your journey into learning and development?
Wow. I actually started in architectural design and graphic design and all kinds of creative marketing design. And it's always convincing somebody, right, to do what you want them to do. And as I started to get into some clients where it mattered, I just kind of picked up the training ball because, boy, it gave me access to my experience as a designer and a graphic designer and a writer and a software designer. I mean, all the things that come together to make learning, especially e-learning, just all fell together for me.
Yeah. So you're kind of like, you're a multifaceted person. You have all of these different skills, and you found that you could just group them together in this particular field.
Yeah, design is design, whether it's photography or it's product design or software design or learning design, behavior design. It's all, it all marches to a certain pattern. And even though the palette becomes different, steps are the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very interesting. So your favorite part of it, why have you stuck to this particular career for as long as you have? What do you like the most about it?
You opened up with it. It's the people. I started with a kind of a small design buildings, design graphics, and as those things kind of got boring, you move out and out another ring and another ring. And really, the whole issue of community and behavior, I mean, that's the big playground. So that's why I stay in it, because I'm so interested in people and what they do and why they do it.
Right. And, one thing that I love asking for folks that have been in this space for as long as they have is, and I know, like, I can see that Danny is in the audience right now, and Trish Ward, but what kind of changes have you seen across the years that have been noticeable to you as like a trainer, as somebody that is an L&D
Sure.
professionals? Is there anything in particular that really, really stands out that you've seen?
Yeah, a couple of things actually. Bandwidth is one. I mean, that has been a game changer, year after year after year after, as we went digital. Um, uh, Clients' understanding of how important learning and development is, I think, has made a nice improvement. There was a change in the industry. You'll remember this, when some of the first tech products came out, and now we had these tools that were as easy as PowerPoint, and of course they looked like PowerPoint, but the whole mentality. One thing that hasn't changed, which really is a pet peeve for me, is very few people look at learning or training and development as a profit center, and it should be. With sales training, I can prove it, but the mentality of, well, this costs money, so we're going to tighten the screws on it, when you should be doing the opposite. Just that mentality, I've gone to bat with executives on numerous times.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so I wanted to ask you about how L&D like sort of has influenced the way that you've created your own products. Like, we've talked to you before about Trust to Connect. And then when I first met you, you were doing My Rhythm, those things, like, what is it that relationship of building those products and L&D, like how do those connect? Because you have a certain emphasis with both of those things, right? And maybe you can talk about Trust to Connect a little bit right now.
Sure. The biggest challenge I've run into over the years has been people's lack of trust. That somebody in the C-suite won't sign off on a project because it gives them some certain amount of risk, and people who hold back their best ideas because they're afraid of being criticized or marginalized. Those are huge issues. I like to mention the whole "people act like turtles act," because when trust is damaged, turtles pull their neck back into their shell, and that's what people do. We fly under the radar. We try not to get noticed. We're not going to stick our necks out on that one, and everybody suffers. If I'm doing that, I can't get where I really want to go. I'm certainly not helping my team. I mean, it's just, and it happens in social circles too. So I think we're, one of the things that I know for sure is that our DNA is programmed for us to connect to other people. It's the only way that we can accomplish more and contribute more, which is kind of why we're here. But then what gets in the way is the emotion of trust, or lack thereof, or fear. It's one of the most primitive sort of conditions that are put on us, and I don't think we've ever really done well with understanding it. But I think it can be. I think it can be understood, and that opens up the territory for people to be more and do more, and feel better doing and being more. So it's an unlock the lock kind of thing.
Right. So for yourself, when did your emphasis on, or your focus on trust and building these relationships, when did that start happening? Was it at the workplace, or was it just sort of a personal agenda that you had, or a cultural agenda that you have? But where did that start for you?
Well, I'm not Filipino. I don't have culture at all. So Uh, but it was a sensibility, a real noticing of how emotionally people act that actually came up in high school. It was the first kind of times that I became sort of a emotional warrior, when people weren't being treated well enough, and trying to be a mediator. Um, but professionally, it wasn't until I started, I think, really being close to some of the people in an organization who entrusted me with learning and marketing, and gave me pretty much carte blanche to do what I thought. And so I really had to be conscious of the trust and the communication, and and that sort of collaborating with that open sort of agenda really turned out the best results always. So that gave me a real strong push this direction.
Yeah. Now, Danny is saying relationships and culture matter. How does that, and because I know that you've put so much emphasis on this and that you've studied it, how does trust impact performance? Is there anything that you've learned that you can share with us where it might be useful for somebody that is a trainer, an L&D professional, where they can consider trust as something that they have to also put some priority on when they're building out, doing their job?
Sure. And that's the being conscious of that as a problem solver, no matter what denomination of problems you're solving, is something that doesn't get much play, but it should. To the extent that we ignore the impact on other people, they immediately, if you're going to put distance between us, then so am I. And what I've learned is that we can predict the things that will cause people to trust us or not trust us. And if we've run into a situation where there isn't trust, whether we've done something or not, we can actually go through a diagnostic and back out of that and repair trust to a point where we kind of get a do-over.
Nice. So is there anything, like, say, if you're an educator, and I'm thinking about this in terms of, your Trust to Connect platform and just the ideas behind it, like, what as an educator can you do to earn the trust of your learners?
All right. Well, people want to feel understood. They want to feel like they matter. And they want to feel like they're worth something. And if you can picture that for the kind of people you're talking to, and it may go individual by individual, but if you can home in on what the friction is that they have, then you can address that, and be really successful in creating a bridge where there is trust. And just the fact that, boy, this is probably sexist, but anytime I've ever, when I was a kid, we have a schoolyard fight with somebody, you'd always end up best friends with them after that, for whatever reason. But when you close a gap for somebody, and you're doing it purposely and with goodwill, then reciprocity kicks in, and they go, well, maybe there's something to this, and maybe I can kind of sneak in and try it out. But the sociologists call it reciprocity. I call it fair trade. People don't come back to a trade that isn't fair. And in fact, we try to even the score somewhere so that it is fair. So like stealing staplers at work, or, it's such a solid human need to have things be fair.
Yeah. So it's just a big chunk of it is just understanding your learners and making that connection that way.
Yeah. But you can go to a real general perspective on it too that helps. And there's an 8-step, and I use it diagnostically, but it's also built into the design process with Trust Connect. There's an 8-step process that goes from DNA to how we build community. So the first is DNA, that we are programmed to connect with other people. The second one there is the emotional level, which says, I'll do that if I feel safe. I won't do it, if I don't. And it's not black and white, but it's it's a variable. And then nature kicks back in again with giving us emotional signals. Oh, that doesn't look good, or wow, that should make you happy. And there are only 8, 10, 12 real emotions. Everything after that is feelings, and people get those understandably mixed up because nobody ever teaches that. But the reason people come up with such different feelings from similar emotions is that the personal beliefs that they hold. So your brain that kicks out emotions cannot think. You have no control over emotions, believe it or not. The feelings that come out, because they're a product of your beliefs, if you don't like the feelings, figure out what your belief is and change that. Mm-hmm. And so the feelings lead to behaviors. The behaviors lead to relationships. The relationships lead to shared experiences. And the last step is learning so that we can do that whole spiral better next time. Mm-hmm. So it's a very predictable model. I mean, you can look at that as you're designing things and say, well, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, we better do this. And it really avoids a lot of the damaged trust that we do inadvertently.
Right. It's fascinating. I like thinking of that in terms of even just building community and even sustaining a community, and just, those steps and being able to establish trust. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. We're emotional beings, so it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like thinking about all these things in my head now about the training, learning, and development community and different emotions that have been floating around and things like that. So I'm gonna have to take a walk after this one. So Jack, what are some things you would wish you had known when you had started out in your career? Maybe something like if you had like someone that's a junior L&D professional that's coming in and you were tasked with sharing some stuff you had known when you had started out.
I wish that I understood fear. The amount of times that I held back and didn't speak my mind, especially if it was in disagreement, kept me from progressing for a number of years. It's been my healing journey to understand that we got 2 jobs. We need to know what our purpose is, even if that's a work purpose, but the bigger sense of purpose. And we need to not let fear have a toehold, because all it does is just send us backwards. I don't mind embarrassing myself at all. You want to see it?
So the fear piece, how would you explain that to somebody, like being able to deal with fear? I actually, I can really identify with that, because I know I would, like, if I were to talk to a younger musician that was maybe interested in talking about performance and even just being a creator, creating music, that would be something that I would mention. It's like, don't be afraid, just let yourself be open to, whatever you're feeling and express that. And so how would you relate that to somebody that would be an L&D professional?
I think I talk a little bit about the notion of flow, creative flow. I look at all of life as vibrations, and real confident, happy emotions and feelings have a high vibration where you open up and you're really able to tap into your best flow. Conversely, like a tight muscle that's sore, if you don't stay open. Let's say you go, and the music is a great example, because I'm going to get up on stage and I'm going to risk what? We have to see risk differently. What if risk was not putting out your best? And I think that's perfect advice for any kind of instructional designer or anybody in any capacity in L&D, is you owe it to you and you owe it to everybody around you not to get shunted by fear, not to give it your best effort, and shoot, if something negative happens, you know the story. You can't learn unless you make mistakes, or unless you get somebody else's opinion in there. So it's all positive.
Right.
That's what I would say is learn to be fearless.
Yeah. No, and it's it's such an interesting thing. Well, I have a 7-year-old, and sometimes we talk about fear, just now that he's starting to play sports and even making friends, things like that. And he talks about how he might be scared of certain things, of participating in certain social activities, and that's part of it, is trying to explain to him sort of that dynamic and of being fearless, but at the same time, just don't take crazy risks. Don't be like a fool.
Yeah, don't be stupid.
Right. But
parenting's a great place to practice things like that. I love parenting. My kids are 30 and 33, so I'm not really doing much of it. But taking that young mind, like a learner who doesn't know things, and slipping them in there in a way that makes them feel comfortable, so that they will engage with it and take ownership of it. That's always there. That's always on the table.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Let me ask you some other things, just kind of about your background at this point. Like, what keeps you inspired? What keeps you focused on the ideas that you have that you express here at TLDC? Is there anything in particular that is keeping you on the path that you're on?
Yeah, actually, it's a huge thing, and it's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what I'm doing to be my divine purpose.
Mm.
And I have gotten lots of help from the other side. I mean, just literally things dropped in my lap, or answers beyond my belief when I've got questions. I just think the universe, and I'm not all that terribly religious. I'm very spiritual, but I know lots of people who are empaths, or Buddhists, or to me there are many doors to truth for anybody to choose one. And I really do think that there is a, as some people say, higher power. Some people say source energy, and I'll buy any of those. I just know that we're miraculous. I mean, we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I revel in that. So
yeah. There's this element for me that where I have such a strong belief in human beings and other people, and just their ability to be divine, and I'm not religious. I don't even really know if I'm spiritual or anything. I just know that I love to see people just achieve things, and to grow and to become just better versions of themselves. And that is something that I feel like is, in a way, a very spiritual thing for me. And it's one of the reasons why I think I'm doing broadcasts like this with you. because I like to to talk to the Jack Pierces of the world out there and learn more about them and find out what
You
gets
know,
them going.
what I've learned about you is you have a wonderful heart,
Oh,
whether you think you're spiritual or not. I mean, you're focused on other people and the good you can do for other people. There's kind of no higher purpose than that, I think.
and it's
So
funny. It feels like it's sort of easy to do this now because there is so much that is against it. Like there's so many things that are trying to divide people and to turn people
yeah,
into against each other and all this, that it's like this is easy. Actually, just remembering that our own humanity is kind of, it's just I'm just trying to make the effort, and it's good for me. All right, so let me ask you this one. We're almost out of time, Jack. But if you weren't an L&D professional, what would you be?
uh, I probably a photographer.
Really? Oh
I do
yeah. Okay.
a ton of work with. I love to manipulate images and create an emotion that two dimensions doesn't usually allow. So it's hard for me not to like put those into my website and
Yeah, you
So
should.
yeah, it's well I do. I'm just launching my new one, and the workshop that I'm just launching is called Trust is Crumbling, Fix It.
Hmm.
So there's some really good research out there, really parallels this, and I can't remember if it's a Pew Charitable Trust or somebody else, but I learned recently they actually have a full-time group that studies trust, and they do surveys with a group. It's a revolving group of 5,000 people that are almost a precise cross-section of ages, socioeconomic circumstances, religions of the country. And so their research is really eye-opening.
Hmm.
Trust is a growing issue for how many things are
Absolutely.
assailing it.
Right. Yeah. No, that is, oh, man, that's a whole other conversation for us, Jack, because, like
Yeah.
trust and accountability, that's a big one for me. Just like,
Yes.
especially in digital privacy and things like that today, that is something that really, really stands out for me. And so,
Yeah.
anyway, last question for you, Jack, and then we're going to wrap it up. If there's one thing that people should know about you, what is it?
Oh God. I don't wet the bed anymore. um, one thing. Is how passionate I am,
Okay.
and I'm even though I'm compassionate, I'm very hard nosed.
Hmm.
I have a real high ethical standard,
Hmm.
and I'm not afraid to hold people to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see that. You're definitely passionate, and and you've been like, you're really, really focused on your journey. That's something that I really get out of my interaction with you. I know that sometimes you send me lots of DMs on Slack and I don't respond. It's late at night and I'm
uh,
like, what is he doing up thinking about this right now?
yeah,
Like,
and you can take or leave those.
right. I'm just like,
My need
well,
to tell, not your need to hear.
no, but Jack, I really, really do appreciate you being a part of the community and jumping in when you can and helping us out with support and talking to people about their needs. And I really do appreciate you participating.
Well,
So thanks
thank
for
you.
that. Thanks for being a member and helping support this community, and for taking the time out to talk with us today.
You're totally welcome, and I wish we could just do more and more together. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm around. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Jack. And tomorrow we've got,
thank you.
yeah. Tomorrow we've got Deanne Bowles coming in from Sydney, Australia. We'll be talking to her. I think she's the Chief Enablement Officer of InSync workplace, I think it was. So that should be a great conversation tomorrow. And then for any of folks that are interested in a DEI event that I'm trying to plan at this point, I know Jack, you're interested in that too. I'm thinking about probably doing a meeting on Monday for anybody that might be wanting to get involved with that. I'm going to put a call out in the Slack channel for that one. It's really been this has been a tough one for me because I feel like I want this to be really a special event. So I want to talk about what I have going with that one. So look for that on Monday and lots of other broadcasts. And with that, thanks everyone for joining us today. And we'll talk to you later.
Great. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.